Being reborn gave me a second chance, and the first thing I did was sever all ties with Claire Bennett. When she came to the company barracks with a home-cooked meal, I refused to open my door. When she invited me to her performance, I gave the ticket to the man she'd always been in love with. The moment I heard she was planning to follow me to a remote border deployment, I took advantage of the newly reinstated GI Bill benefits and, that very day, sent in my application to MIT, 1,000 miles away. All I wanted in this life was to be complete strangers. I wanted this because in my last life, I loved her for 30 years. And for 30 years, she treated me like I was invisible. It was only on my deathbed that I learned the truth. She had always loved someone else. My devotion, my relentless pursuit of her, was nothing more than a tool she used to make her old flame, Ryan, jealous. When Ryan eventually left town, she blamed me for it. Years later, as I lay dying, they reconciled. They stood beside my hospital bed, planning their wedding without a shred of concern for the man whose heart monitor was flatlining. Even my own daughter was giddy, eagerly helping them with the arrangements. I was pathetic, fading away to the sound of their laughter. I will not live that miserable life a second time. Sergeant, Claire Bennett's here. The barracks door flew open and Davis stuck his head in, a sly grin plastered on his face as he waggled his eyebrows at me. She made you lunch, man. You can't turn down a home-cooked meal from a woman like that. I just sat there on my bunk, frozen. The sharp, piercing shriek of a heart monitor still echoed in my ears. How was I suddenly back on the base? Could it be? I was reborn. My heart hammered against my ribs as the memories flooded back. That's right. In my previous life, this was the day it all started. The first time Claire ever came to the barracks looking for me, carrying a meal sheet made herself. I was ecstatic back then, thinking my persistence had finally broken through her defenses. I never imagined I was just a pawn, a piece she was moving on the board to provoke Ryan Vance. The thought made my stomach turn. I flopped back onto my cot and rolled over, facing the wall. Tell her I'm sick. I mumbled into my pillow, not seeing anyone. Davis froze. What? Dude, just yesterday you were talking about her. After all these years, it finally looks like your patience is paying off. What's with the sudden change of heart? Yesterday was yesterday. Today, I don't want to see her. My bizarre behavior drew the other guys in the room over. Miller's eyes were wide with disbelief. Sergeant, don't tell me you're getting cold feet. It's not every day Claire Bennett makes the first move. You can't let this one get away. The others chimed in, echoing the same sentiment. I've been chasing her for so long, they said. It would be a waste to give up now. Their nagging wore me down. I pushed myself up, my voice firmer than I'd ever heard it. It's not cold feet. I genuinely don't want anything to do with her ever again. Davis scratched his head, clearly unconvinced. Yeah, right, Sarge. You said the same thing last month, and the next day we caught you staking out the performance hall, bringing her breakfast for a week straight. A bitter smile touched my lips. He was right. That's how pathetic I was in my past life. I knew she had feelings for someone else, but I still orbited her like a stray dog, convinced that one day my loyalty would win her over. And what did I get for it? She took the lunch I made for her and, in front of the entire company, handed it to Ryan Vance with a sweet smile. Ethan's cooking, she'd said. You should try it. In that moment, I was the biggest joke on the entire base. This time is different, I said, my voice low. I got off the bunk and pulled a small, unopened box from my footlocker, a jar of expensive face cream I'd had a buddy pick up for me in New York. It was supposed to be for her. I tossed the box to Davis. Anyone want it? It's yours. He fumbled to catch it, his expression pure shock. Sarge, are you serious? More serious than I've ever been in my life. I buttoned up my fatigues, my voice calm, and even, from this day on, Claire Bennett and I are done. The barracks fell silent. Everyone stared at me like I'd grown a second head. After a long moment, Miller let out a nervous laugh. Sergeant, you haven't been possessed or something, have you? I ignored him, repeating my earlier instruction. Just do me a favor and pass along the message. Tell her I'm sick, I can't see anyone, and I'm not hungry. Though they were confused, my squad always respected my decisions. They did as I asked without any more questions and came back a few minutes later, looking pleased. Davis shot me a triumphant look as he walked in. See, Sarge, I think you've really got her this time. She was genuinely worried about you, Look, she asked me to give you this. He held out a piece of paper. It's a backstage pass for the troupe show. People would kill for one of these. He nudged my shoulder. Come on, man, don't be so stubborn. She's finally showing some interest. Just go with it. I took the pass, still warm from her touch, and a wave of unease washed over me. Was she really interested in me? No. I remembered this show. In my past life, she gave me a pass just like this one, insisting that I had to be there to watch her. She said seeing me in the audience would calm her nerves. I believe her. I went, my heart soaring. But after the show, I overheard Ryan backstage, his voice tight with anger. Why was he here? Claire, blushing furiously, stammered that I had insisted on coming, that she just couldn't say no. Of course, when she came to me later with a half-baked explanation, I fell for it all over again. Looking back now, I must have been a complete idiot. 02. I wasn't holding on to that hot potato. The next morning, I took the pass and went to find Ryan Vance. He was leaning against a wall, a cigarette dangling from his lips. He started to make a sarcastic comment, but his expression changed the second he saw what was in my hand. Where did you get that? Did Claire give it to you? His voice dripped with acid. What? You here to gloat about how special you are? I ignored his taunt and held the pass out to him. It's yours. He stared at it, then back at me, his eyes narrowing. What's the catch? No catch, I said calmly. It means what it means. Take the pass. I'm not going. Ryan scoffed, but he snatched the ticket from my hand. He examined it for a moment, a mocking smirk spreading across his face. Finally figured out you're out of your league. No, you can't compete with me. So you're just giving up? The old me would have blown a fuse, ready to fight him right then and there. But now I felt nothing. It was almost funny. I shrugged. Think whatever you want. You two deserve each other. With that, I turned and walked away. He yelled after me, Don't think for a second that just because Claire's nice to you sometimes, it means she actually likes you, Clark. In her heart, you're nothing. I'm the one who matters. I didn't look back. I just gave a lazy wave over my shoulder, unwilling to waste another breath on him. After living through one lifetime of their drama, I knew that better than anyone. It was the entire reason I was trying so desperately to draw a line in the sand. They could have their twisted, dramatic love story, just as long as they kept me out of it. On the night of the show, I kept my word. I didn't go. After evening drills, I sat alone at the edge of the training field, smoking a cigarette. In the distance, I could hear the faint sound of music from the performance hall. Davis came over, his face alight with curiosity. Sarge, you really not going? Claire saved that pass especially for you. I flicked the ash from my cigarette. Not going. Not interested. Davis clicked his tongue. Wow, you really have changed. I said nothing. It wasn't that I'd changed. I'd just finally woken up. In my last life, after I left the Army, I threw myself into work and let my physical training slide for decades. Even though this body was young and strong again, my mind hadn't caught up yet. I decided to run a few extra laps under the cover of darkness to get back into the rhythm of things. But on my way back to the barracks, I ran right into Claire. She was still in her stage costume, her makeup perfect. She'd clearly just finished her performance. The moment she saw me, her brow furrowed and she hurried over. Ethan. I kept walking, giving her a curt nod as a greeting. But she wasn't having it. She stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Her voice was tinged with urgency. Why didn't you come to my performance? And why did you give my pass to someone else? The anger on her face looked real. But I just didn't get it. Isn't this what you wanted? I asked. She froze, finally sputtering. What are you talking about? She wanted to play dumb, but I had no patience for it. I decided to put an end to it, right here and now. I'm talking about us. Let's stop doing these pointless things. I'm not going to chase you anymore, and you can stop using me as a pawn. From now on, let's just pretend we don't know each other. A look of panic flashed across her face. She grabbed my sleeve. Ethan, you got it all wrong. I never thought of you as a pawn. What are you saying? I pulled my arm away, a surge of irritation rising in me. Got it wrong. I let out a cold laugh. Then tell me, why is it that every time Ryan shows up, you're suddenly desperate to pretend you have nothing to do with me? Why did you take the lunch I made for you and hand it right over to him? And why did you pretend to give me the pass for this show when you knew he was the one you want to hear all along? Her mouth opened, but no words came out. The color drained from her face. I had no interest in hearing her excuses. I turned to leave. She called after me, her voice cracking. "Ethan, wait." I didn't stop. I walked faster. Back in the barracks, Davis and the guys were shooting the breeze. The moment I walked in, they went quiet, their eyes darting nervously in my direction. "What?" I asked. Miller couldn't hold it in. He leaned in and whispered, "Sarge, did you and Claire get into a fight?" "No." "Then how come?" He trailed off. I saw her on my way back. Her eyes were all red, like she'd been crying. Crying. In my last life, she was smiling while she planned her wedding at my deathbed. "Oh," I said, heading to my bunk to get ready for bed. "From now on, don't talk to me about her. We're finished." The room was silent. The guys just looked at each other, and no one said another word. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. Just before I closed my eyes, an image of Claire with her red-rimmed eyes flashed in my mind. I pinched myself hard. Don't be a sucker, Clark. This was my only chance. I absolutely could not make the same mistakes again. As the days on the calendar tore away, one by one, any lingering, undefined feelings I had for Claire evaporated in the sweat and exhaustion of daily training. I started to enjoy the fresh, free air of being 20 again. Then, one afternoon, while I was in the company office filing training reports, Miller burst in, looking frantic. "Sergeant, someone from the performance troupe just came by. They said Claire Bennett collapsed. The infirmary wants you over there now." The pen in my hand paused for a second. Then I went right back to writing without looking up. "The infirmary has doctors. Why do they need me?" Miller was getting agitated. But they said she keeps calling your name. She won't cooperate with the medics." I frowned, wondering what game she was playing now. She'd pulled this stunt in our last life, faking an illness to make me worry. Just as I was running around in a panic, she turned to Ryan and said, "Look at him. So worried. It's hilarious. But what if? What if this time it was real?" I put down my pen and rubbed my temples. Even if a total stranger collapsed, I wouldn't just ignore it. "All right, I'll go check it out." When I got to the base clinic, Claire was propped up on a bed, her face pale. A cool patch was stuck to her forehead. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Ethan, you came." Her voice was weak. I stood at the door, not taking another step. "Why'd you call me?" I said, my tone flat. "You don't look that bad. If you're okay, I'm leaving." "Don't." "Ethan," she called out, her voice sharp with panic. When I turned back, it softened again. "My head is so dizzy. I have no energy." A nurse standing nearby added, "She's had a persistent low-grade fever, and she's been very agitated. Sergeant Clark, maybe you can convince her to get some rest." I scowled and walked over to the bedside table, picking up the thermometer. I glanced at the reading. 98. 1 degrees. I let out a cold snort and put it back. "Looks like a pretty serious fever." Claire's expression froze, her fingers twisting the bed sheets. It was 100, for when they took it before." "Was it? Should we have the doctor check you again?" She bit her lip and looked away, refusing to meet my eyes. I was done playing these games with her. I turned to the nurse. "Her temperature is normal, so it can't be anything serious. Thanks for taking care of her." With that, I started to walk out. Claire shot up in bed, her voice thick with tears. "Ethan, can't you just stay with me for a little while?" I honestly couldn't figure this woman out. Before, when I was completely devoted to her, she couldn't have cared less, saving all her attention for Ryan. Now that I'd backed off and was willing to let them be together, she was manufacturing reasons to pull me back in. She needed to be admitted, all right, to the psych ward. I sighed and turned back, my face a mask of indifference. "Claire, is faking sick really that fun for you?" Her eyes immediately filled with tears. "I'm not faking. I really feel awful. So awful that your temperature is normal, your cheeks are rosy, and you have enough energy to yell my name across the room." She was speechless, her lips trembling. After a moment, she finally choked out a single sentence. You were never like this before." "You're right. I was a fool before. You'd get a headache, and I'd run around like a headless chicken, waiting on you hand and foot." I stared at her coldly. "But now, I have zero interest in being a part of your little drama." I watched as her eyes grew redder and redder until fat tears started rolling down her cheeks. "Ethan, are you doing this to me because of Ryan?" My gaze was ice. "You know exactly why I'm doing this," I said. "Claire, let me make it crystal clear. I have no feelings for you anymore. I only came today because I was worried you might actually be in trouble, not because I care about you in any other way. If you're really not feeling well, go find Ryan. He's the one you're always trying to impress. Stop coming to me." Claire looked stunned, tears frozen on her face, as if all the strength had been drained from her body. I didn't wait for a response. I turned and left. Davis was waiting for me outside the clinic door, looking like he wanted to say something. "Sarge, about Claire. She's fine." I cut him off. "And if she has any other problems, don't come looking for me." Davis sighed but didn't push it. I looked up at the sky and let out a long, slow breath. This time, it was really over. I had finally let her go. I thought I'd made myself perfectly clear. On top of that, I've been actively avoiding Claire. For someone with so much pride, she had to have gotten the message. But lately, she'd been acting stranger than ever. Ever since the incident at the clinic, she started showing up everywhere. When her troupe finished rehearsals, she'd take the long way back, right past our barracks, always carrying a Tupperware container. "Sergeant Clark, the troupe is working on a new show. Would you like to come see it?" I didn't even turn my head. "No time." "Well, I'm a pretty good cook. I'll learn a new recipe, maybe." "Not necessary," I interrupted. "The food in the mess hall is fine." She stopped walking. In my peripheral vision, I saw her bite her lip, her eyes turning red again. In my last life, a look like that would have broken my heart, and I'd have agreed to anything. Now, I couldn't even be bothered to give her a second glance. After training one day, she blocked the path back to the barracks, wringing her hands as she tried to ask about my future plans. The moonlight illuminated her face, making her look just as beautiful as she did when I was hopelessly in love with her. "Sergeant Clark, I heard. You're passing up on college, thinking of making a career out of the Army." "Yep," I grunted. Her eyes lit up. "Yvette, I've decided to stay here, too. I think you're right. People like us are needed here." I almost laughed out loud. In our last life, she did everything she could to get a transfer to a major city command. The only reason she stayed was because she couldn't get in, and now she was talking about putting down roots. I didn't call her out on it. I just nodded and tried to walk around her. Claire was proud. My repeated rejections were clearly starting to get to her. Just as I passed her, she called out my full name. "Ethan Clark, what is wrong with you?" I turned to face her. "Nothing's wrong. I thought I made everything pretty clear at the clinic the other day. Beyond that, there's really nothing left to say." I walked away without another word. Back in the barracks, Davis was kicked back, reading a newspaper. I strode over to the calendar on the wall and tore off a page. "Davis, the new GI Bill benefits kicked in, right? When's the application deadline for the fall semester?" "Day after tomorrow, I think," he said, looking at me quizzically. Then it clicked. "You sly dog. You're planning on making a big move, aren't you?" I didn't have time to answer. I grabbed my jacket and bolted out the door. The lights were still on at the base education center. The counselor on duty, a young specialist named Lou, was just about to lock up when I stopped him. "Application forms. Quick, I need one." Lou looked bewildered, but handed me a packet of paperwork. I leaned against the hallway windowsill and started filling it out right there, writing mechanical engineering at MIT in the box for my first choice. Lou's eyes bugged out. "Sergeant, are you crazy? You think you can get in there?" I scribbled my signature with a flourish. Never know if you don't try, right? By the time I handed in the forms, night had fallen. I walked slowly back toward the barracks. In the distance, I could see Claire still standing under a streetlight. The Tupperware container was gone. She saw me, and her face brightened as she started to walk toward me. I immediately changed course, cutting across the empty training field to get back to my room. Inside, Davis was looking over the old high school textbooks I'd been studying. "Man, Sarge, you're really going for it," he said, shaking his head. "Go big or go home, huh?" I didn't answer, just opened my old physics textbook. I knew it was a long shot. I'd have to work 10 times harder than anyone else just to have a chance. But a chance was all I needed. If I didn't even take the first step, I'd be stuck here forever. Besides, I thought about what Claire had said. She wanted to stay here. If that was the case, then I would get out. I would put as much distance between us as possible. There was no way our lives could get tangled up again if we were on opposite sides of the country. The tragedy of my last life would not be repeated. Not on my watch. A faint sound of footsteps came from outside, followed by a soft knock on the door. Davis and I looked at each other. Neither of us moved. After a long time, The footsteps faded away. I pushed open the window. The small figure under the streetlight was walking away, eventually disappearing into the darkness. I slammed the window shut and turned to the next page of my book. This life, I was going to live for myself. When my commanding officer found out I was applying to college, he slapped me on the back with a grin. "Attaboy, Clark. That's ambition. If this company produces an MIT man, that'll do us all proud." I scratched my head, embarrassed. "Thanks for the encouragement, sir. But until the acceptance letters come out, could you keep this under wraps? I don't want a lot of people to know." My main concern was Claire. She was too much of a wild card. "You got it," the CO agreed easily. "But if you get in, you owe me a beer." I laughed and promised I would. I was in a good mood when I left his office. But my spirits sank when I stepped outside and saw Claire sitting under the old oak tree, knitting. It didn't take a genius to figure out who the sweater was for. And sure enough, Ryan was buzzing around her like a fly. "Claire, that pattern is awesome." "Is that for me? Blue is totally my color." Claire didn't look up, her needles clicking away at a furious pace. I tried to detour, but she suddenly looked up and her eyes locked on me. "Sergeant Clark." She jumped to her feet, dropping a needle. Before I could react, she was rushing toward me, holding up the half-finished sweater. Ryan's face turned thunderous. I was just as stunned. Claire stood on her toes, holding the sweater up to my chest. "What do you think? Does it fit?" "I picked navy blue because I thought it would complement your skin tone." I took a step back. A loose strand of yarn caught on one of my buttons, unraveling a long thread. This was new. Claire Bennett was giving me a gift? "Claire!" Ryan stormed over and grabbed her by the wrist. "What the hell is this? You're knitting that for him." He was practically shouting. "Why would you give it to him?" Claire's face flushed with anger, and she yanked her arm away. "What business is it of yours who I knit a sweater for? Ethan and I have known each other a long time, and he's given me plenty of gifts. What's wrong with me giving him one in return?" I wasn't the only one confused. Ryan looked at her in total disbelief. This was the first time she'd ever yelled at him. His face turned beet red. You always said you couldn't stand him clinging to you, and now you're falling all over yourself to knit him a sweater. When did I ever say that?" "Ryan, don't you dare make things up." Their argument grew louder, giving me a headache. I watched them, their faces contorted in anger. In my past life, seeing this would have made me so happy I wouldn't have been able to sleep for 3 days. Now it just felt pathetic. I turned to leave. The yarn caught on my button and snapped. Claire noticed I was walking away and forgot all about Ryan. "Sergeant, I'll bring the sweater by when I'm finished," she called out desperately. I waved a hand over my shoulder. "Give it to Ryan. I don't need it." Her footsteps stopped. I could hear Ryan's snide voice behind me. "See?" Getting the cold shoulder. "Serves you right. I told you to give it to me." "Shut up." I picked up my pace, turned a corner, and left there fighting far behind. Davis appeared out of nowhere, grinning like an idiot. "Sarge, I saw the whole thing." I shot him a glare. "See what? You finished those practice exams yet?" He shrank back, then lowered his voice. "But for real, Sarge, you don't want the sweater? I saw her working on it for nights. Her fingers are all pricked and bleeding." I stopped walking. An image from my past life flashed in my mind. Me, staying up all night transcribing a complex piece of sheet music for her, my own fingers raw and blistered. She took it and gave it to Ryan without a second thought. Maybe this was a form of karma. "What's it got to do with me?" I said dismissively. "Come on, back to the books." Maybe it was the stress of balancing training with studying. Or maybe it was just seeing Clare so damn often. Whatever the reason, I started dreaming about her. About my last life. In the dream, I was in my early 20s, standing outside her family's house in my brand new dress uniform, nervously wringing my hands. Inside, my mother was talking to Claire's aunt, her voice rising and falling. "Our Ethan is a really good boy, and he's so fond of Claire." I peeked through a crack in the door. Claire was sitting in a corner, twisting the hem of her shirt. She was wearing a red blouse that made her skin look like porcelain, but her eyes kept darting toward the door. I knew who she was waiting for. "Ryan." My mother's voice was full of forced cheer. "Claire, dear, Ethan is doing so well in the service. He'd be so good to you. What do you think?" Claire just stared at the floor, saying nothing, her fingernails scratching a white line into the wooden stool she sat on. I'd seen this scene play out a dozen times. My aunts, my cousins. I had begged every relative I had to go to her family and make a case for me. And every time, Claire was the same. She wouldn't say yes, but she wouldn't say no. She just let me hang there. My relentless proposals had spooked her, making her wish Ryan would just come and sweep her away. But Ryan had taken an early discharge. An uncle of his had promised him an opportunity in the city, and he jumped at it. He met the daughter of a factory owner and was so eager to climb the social ladder that he was willing to marry into her family. He'd forgotten all about Claire, but she didn't believe it. She was convinced I had somehow sabotaged their love story. Ethan Clark. I hate you. A scream jolted me awake. I shot up in bed. It was still dark. The sound of Davis snoring filled the room. But when I closed my eyes, the images came rushing back. Claire, in a crimson wedding dress, her makeup streaked with tears under the veil. It was all you, she'd hissed at me on our wedding night. You were always there, always hovering. Ryan must have thought I'd moved on. He left because of you. It's all your fault. I tried to speak, but my throat was tight. My bride was huddled in the corner of our new bed, looking at me like I was the enemy. The dream shifted. The day our daughter was born, I waited outside the delivery room all night. When the nurse brought out the tiny, wrinkled baby, my hands were shaking. But when my daughter was learning to write, the first letter she learned wasn't M for mom or D for dad. Claire held her small hand and carefully, deliberately, wrote the letter on a piece of paper. Her expression was disturbingly gentle. "That's for your Uncle Ryan," she'd whispered. "Can you remember that?" I remember, but Mommy, who's Uncle Ryan? In that moment, Claire's face softened. She began to tell our daughter their tragic love story, spinning a tale of star-crossed lovers and filling her head with every sweet moment she and Ryan had ever shared. She made our daughter believe that I had stolen her mother away, and as a result, the girl always felt a special kinship with Ryan. I told myself to be patient. I thought if I was just good enough to them, just a little better every day, they would eventually come around. The final result was me, at 50, in a hospital bed with a terminal illness. When Claire found out, she told the doctors to cease treatment, packed a few of my old things, and sent me to a hospice facility. In the end, I lay paralyzed on a bed in that facility, listening to the nurses chat in the hallway. "Did you hear that Mrs. Clark reconnected with her old high school flame?" "You mean that Ryan fellow?" "I heard. After 30 years, they finally cleared up their misunderstanding. They're getting married again. Her daughter is so happy for them. She's running around planning the whole thing." The heart monitor beside me began to scream. I stared at the water stains on the ceiling as my vision blurred. The last thing I heard was a doctor's voice. "Let's notify the family. The patient is critical." No one answered. Sergeant. Davis's voice pulled me from the depths of the memory. I realized my pillow was soaked and the faint taste of blood was in my mouth. He handed me a towel. "Bad dream." I wiped my face, and to my own surprise, I laughed. "No, it was a good dream. It made me see things clearly." I swung my legs out of bed and grabbed my study materials from my footlocker. My hand was still shaking. "Davis, starting today, I'm pulling all-nighters." He stared at me, dumbfounded. "What got into you?" I didn't answer. I just took a pen and viciously crossed off another day on my homemade countdown to application deadline calendar. I was such a fool in my last life. I thought if I gave my heart, I would get one in return. In the end, there wasn't a single person by my side as I died. After a long silence, I spoke again. "Davis, you know what the stupidest thing a person can do is?" "What?" "Fall into the same hole twice." I snapped my textbook shut. The words college prep on the cover were a glaring, angry red. "This life, if I make the same mistake again, I'll..." I stopped mid-sentence. Because I saw her. Claire was standing on the ground below, looking up at my window. In the faint light of dawn, her tears glistened, just like the candles on our wedding night. I yanked the curtains shut so hard when the hooks tore off. To hell with her tears. Hadn't I shed enough of my own to last a lifetime? For a long time after that, my life was a simple loop between the barracks and the training field. I had no time or energy to deal with Claire. The day before my exams, I was up before dawn, quietly packing a bag. Davis insisted on seeing me off, but I pushed him back onto his bunk. "Don't wake anyone up," I whispered. "I'll be back as soon as it's over." I had just reached the main gate when I heard frantic footsteps behind me. I cursed under my breath. As I expected, it was Claire. Sergeant Clark. She ran to catch up, her hair a mess, a few strands flying loose around her face. Her eyes were startlingly bright in the early morning light. "Where are you going so early?" she asked, panting. "Nowhere special," I lied. "Just have to run an errand in town." "Oh, in such a hurry." She reached out and tugged on the strap of my duffel bag. "Well, be safe. I'll be waiting for you to come back." I didn't reply. I just turned and walked away. While I was a good distance down the road, I glanced back. She was still standing there, waving. The entrance exams were being held at the county high school. I got there a day early to get the lay of the land. I spent the night in a cheap motel, tossing and turning. Eventually, I gave up on sleep and just worked through another practice test. 3 days later, when I returned to the base, Claire was the first person I saw. "Sergeant Clark, did you get your errands done?" "Yep." I walked past her toward the barracks, but she scurried to keep up. "So, the troop has a show next week. I saved you the best seat." "No time," I said, not even looking at her. This became our new routine. She'd find any excuse to talk to me, bringing me fruit, asking about my training regimen, trying to borrow a book. I'd shut her down with the shortest possible answer, just like she used to do to me. Then, one afternoon, the entire company erupted. Davis came sprinting onto the training field, waving a large envelope, his voice trembling. "Sergeant, it's here. An acceptance letter from MIT." The whole squad swarmed me. I took the thick, cream-colored envelope, my own fingers shaking slightly. The guys were cheering, trying to hoist me onto their shoulders. "You're a genius, Sarge. You owe us all drinks." "Wow, what's all the excitement about?" Claire's voice cut through the noise. She pushed her way through the crowd until she was standing in front of me, a smile on her face. "Let's go," she stopped. Her eyes fell on the envelope in my hand, and her smile vanished. "Is that an acceptance letter?" I nodded, carefully tucking into my bag. Her eyes instantly turned red. She took a slow step toward me. "So when you said you were going to town, you were taking the college entrance exams." I didn't say anything, which was answer enough. Tears welled in her eyes, and her composure finally shattered. "Why did you hide it from me?" she cried. "Ethan, what did I do wrong? Why are you being so cold to me? Why are you going so far away?" A horrified realization dawned on her face. Is it to get away from me?" The field went dead silent. Everyone was watching us. Looking at her hysterical, broken expression, I felt a strange sense of calm. I sighed. "There's no why. I just don't have feelings for you anymore, and I want to be somewhere you're not." The tears streamed down her face, and she choked back a sob. But I was going to stay here. For you." Her tears fell, one after another, but they didn't move me. I didn't reach out to wipe them away like I always would have before. "You shouldn't do things for other people," I said, my voice even. "If you want to stay, stay. If you want to go, go. It's your life." She stared at me, completely stunned by my indifference. After a long moment, she turned and ran, sobbing. I didn't take a single step to follow her. Some people, and some mistakes, are best left in the past. It was long past time to make a clean break. I walked through the hallowed gates of MIT, just as I'd planned, but I never forgot my original dream. I poured myself into my studies, and the day I graduated, I submitted my application to re-enlist. A few years later, I was back on the base, a fresh recruit all over again. The first person I saw was Davis. He threw his arms around me and clapped me on the back, tears in his eyes, more emotional now than on the day I had left. I laughed and pushed a bag of souvenirs from Boston into his hands. "What are you crying for, you big baby? Come on, I'm buying you guys around tonight. Call the CO. I still owe him that beer." That night, just like old times, we drank until dawn. At some point, the CO brought up Claire. He said that after I left, she hit the books like crazy, trying to get into the same school as me. But she just didn't have the grades, and after a few failed attempts, she gave up. Ryan proposed. She wasn't going to accept, but when it became clear I wasn't coming back, she lost hope and went through with it. Their marriage was far from happy. Claire constantly blamed Ryan, saying if he hadn't gotten between us back then, I never would have left her. I smiled. It was a familiar refrain. He went on to say they fought constantly. One time it got physical. That was a major breach of conduct, and they were both dishonorably discharged. They moved to a neighboring county, and no one had heard from them since. I refilled my glass, then topped off the COs and Davises. All right, I said, raising my glass. It's good to be back. Let's not ruin it by talking about them. I smiled at my old friends. Tonight, we're drinking to a new life. Damn right, a new life. They raised their glasses in unison. In that moment, Claire Bennett and Ryan Vance were completely forgotten. From now on, I was just Ethan Clark, a man who had died once, and in doing so, had finally learned that loving yourself is more important than loving anyone else.